This place is kind of sad. I know that there are a lot of nice places here, especially in the city of Vancouver. But Vancouver isn't just the city of Vancouver, there's this wasteland called Metro Vancouver. Although the city of Vancouver is infinitely better than the rest of Vancouver, it of course still has its flaws. Yeah, the city of Vancouver is somewhat nice. The area close to downtown is especially nice, although it may not be perfect. Downtown is lively, with streets busy with not only cars, but also pedestrians and even cyclists. The roads though may get a bit large in certain areas, but the downtown here is still a lot better than most of the downtowns in Canada and America. The Falls Creek area is one of the most urbanist places in the city too. A lot of the images of Vancouver you see are taken there. But the city of Vancouver's population is somewhere around 675,000 people. Metro Vancouver's population is about 2,657,000 people. So about 2 million people that don't live in the city of Vancouver have to live in places like this. These places are dominated by cars. Here sidewalks are narrow, they're grey, and they're just sad overall. While walking on these sidewalks, the only thing you can hear is cars, and it's loud. There may be a bit of grass, but it's so plain and so grey. Having trees next to these sidewalks is also quite a rare sight to see. Even in the city of Vancouver, some sidewalks still feel awful because there's basically no separation from the 60 km/h traffic. Having something as simple as trees or bushes separating cars from pedestrians and cyclists while not making the sidewalk and the bike lane too small makes cyclists and pedestrians feel a lot more comfortable. Obviously, the comfort of pedestrians and cyclists aren't very important in this part of the city, as most people drive. Giant parking lots like this also aren't good. Building giant surface parking lots is a giant waste of space. Just imagine how much more housing or businesses could be here. But instead, it's just concrete. It spreads everything out so things are farther than they need to be. Buildings being farther makes public and active transport less of a viable option and encourages driving. This see-up parking and other parking lots should probably be used better. Instead of wasting all this space for concrete, it's probably better to just turn this into more commercial or residential buildings, or just turn it into a green area, like a park. Something still feels missing on this road with a protected bike lane. It's probably because it's still a 4-lane arterial road with a concrete barrier. I mean, you can't really see the concrete barrier since it wasn't plowed at all, but pretend it's there. Sure, having a bike lane is cool enough, but having your eardrums blown out by a 4-lane arterial road while cycling isn't very pleasant. I know it's hard to do in this place, but having bike lanes isn't all. Reducing the number of cars on the road is also something rather important. This is a good start though, so keep it up, Coquitlam. Completely banning cars isn't a good idea too, since people may have to carry heavy cargo or have long commutes that aren't convenient to do on even the best transit systems. And if we remove cars from the road, where would emergency vehicles go? Every trip shouldn't be done by car though, and that's what Metro Vancouver sucks at, and every other city in Canada and America. There's way too much parking, and the roads are way too wide, so people have no other choice but to drive if they want to get around safely and comfortably. But why don't we just drive? If everyone is in a car, then no one would have to walk and experience these awful sidewalks. This is a valid argument if you ignore all the problems with driving. Cars are expensive. To people in the middle class and higher, this isn't too much of a problem. But to people with low incomes, owning a car is just too much. So low-income families must spend a large percentage of their money on owning a car, or they have no other choice but to risk their safety and walk on these things. People with low incomes are not the only group of people who have to walk in these wastelands. There's another group of people, children. Children can't drive, so they either have to cycle, walk, or take transit. Of course, parents can just drive children to wherever they may need to go, but some parents just don't have the time, don't want to, or other reasons. So many children walk on these stupid things and risk their safety while doing so. Parents are sometimes looked down on just because their children aren't driven everywhere. Driving in winter also isn't very nice. Having too many 2-ton metal boxes on a slippery road is dangerous for both pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers. When pedestrians and cyclists slip, it wouldn't be as harmful as, say, a 2.5-ton Ford F-150 slipping at 50 kilometers per hour on a busy road. Cars drive slower in the snow, so having too many cars in winter causes delay. Sure, buses drive slow in the snow, but if there weren't that many cars causing traffic, it wouldn't be as slow. Trains are basically completely unaffected, unlike cars and buses. If the snow on a good sidewalk or bike lane is dealt with properly, walking and cycling would be ideal. These horrible roads also cost the silly government money. Even though they're just a bunch of concrete or asphalt, they're expensive. This interchange in Richmond is going to cost $87.5 million. They're adding 3 more lanes to the bridge, plus a sidewalk and a bike lane. There are also going to be bus lanes, which is great. It just goes to show how much a little concrete plus a 5-lane bridge costs. Yeah, there are going to be bike lanes, sidewalks, and multi-use pathways. But this isn't as costly as a part of the project for cars. These $87.5 million could have been spent on something better than asphalt, even if there are a few bus lanes. Using the money to make the area less unpleasant for pedestrians and cyclists would be a nicer way of spending it. But doing those nice changes here is virtually impossible, since people are so accustomed to cars, so silly government people don't want to change things. There's also the environmental impact of cars, but I won't go too much into detail. It's not good. Electric cars won't help anything either. They may not emit any carbon emissions, but their batteries aren't super eco-friendly. Hydrogen cars are the best for the environment, although all the problems with car-centered cities don't just fade away because more cars are electric or hydrogen powered. Because of all this car stuff, the state of public transportation isn't really ideal. The SkyTrain isn't that bad, but the buses are. Buses in downtown Vancouver aren't too bad, although they do get stuck in traffic. However, buses in the rest of the city aren't very pleasant. On weekdays, a lot of buses come every 15 minutes or faster, but a lot of buses don't. Many people, including school children, have overly long commutes just because that one bus comes every 30 minutes. Buses get stuck in the same traffic as cars in Metro Vancouver, so of course people don't want to take the bus. On weekends, it's even worse. Most buses in the suburbs come every 30 minutes or later. Only the busiest buses come every 15 minutes, and very few bus lines have frequencies faster than that on weekends. Housing here in Vancouver is awfully expensive. There isn't enough housing, and even though it looks like there's a lot of construction projects, it's definitely not enough. It's not only in Vancouver though. So many other cities in Canada and the rest of the world have insanely high prices for housing. Instead of destroying farmland and forests to build single-family homes, we should probably just densify. Of course, we shouldn't destroy every single-family home for medium or high-density housing, since some people need to live in bigger homes. But most of the housing shouldn't be giant single-family homes, since it's a big waste of space. Not living in a giant house shouldn't be seen as something out of the ordinary, since many people around the world don't, and in those places, raising a family in an apartment or a condo isn't weird. Just because Metro Vancouver isn't as nice as Vancouver doesn't mean it has to stay like that. In most other wealthy countries, places outside of the city center don't just suddenly become a grey wasteland. It doesn't have to be like that in Canada and America too. The rest of Metro Vancouver could be more like the city of Vancouver, and the city of Vancouver could become one of the greatest cities in North America with enough support and funding. But there is neither support nor funding to make the region less grey and less sad, and that's not good. A lot of people here have no desire for anything to change, even if they are aware that having a city centered around cars isn't the best. What a lot of people don't realize though, is that a lot of the great cities in the world weren't always so great. A lot of great European cities today changed their minds about cars while they were building car-centered infrastructure a while ago. Many great cities in East Asia had to start from being really poor or destroyed from the war. Those European and Asian cities were definitely not as nice as they are now. Some of those cities weren't even known as a great city before they improved. If those places became so nice, then Canada and America can do that to their own cities. Canada and America have the money, but they don't have the desire to. The Transportation Authority, TransLink, is trying to make things better, but it's not really working. TransLink and basically all of Metro Vancouver want to make public and active transport more convenient and a better experience with new BRT lines, better bus services, and better active transport infrastructure. All of that costs money though, and TransLink doesn't have that money, but the provincial and federal governments do. They want the public to show support for more transit funding. You can learn more with the link in the description. I'm pretty sure that TransLink stated that if they don't get some funding sometime this year, things will not look good for Vancouver's transit. So, until the provincial and federal governments fund a plan for a better future for Vancouver's transportation, it will still be as bad as it is now.